podcast tonight because we didn't do this last week. Actually, I hadn't done it the last 3 weeks. And talk HBCU college basketball. Love college basketball, even though I don't watch much, don't pay attention too close to these days because these kids are much younger. And some kids, I don't know who the hell they are. But anyway, it's much different than them when we were growing up in college or just graduate college, than as like men of a certain age group. So anyway, what I'm figure doing is going by each conference and talk women's and just do a little overview right quick of women's and men's basketball and talk about what stands out or whatnot. And we're going to go more into the minutia in weeks to come. So hopefully that sounds good to the rest of y'all because that's how we do things. So anyway, we're going to start with our beloved MEAC, the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference. We're going to talk women's basketball. So right now, it's an early going, but Norfolk State, 14-3 overall, 2-0 in the conference. They are as hot as fish grease right now, and they are looking very, very good. So, they're the best, by far the best out of a bunch that kind of a mediocre bunch, to be honest with you. I mean, the only other squad that's above 500 overall is Morgan State, 8-6. But what are your impressions of women's basketball side right now? Is Norfolk State performing as well as you thought, or is there any other surprises? So, what's up?
I don't know if there are any surprises as of yet. You did touch on it. Norfolk State currently has the best record amongst HBCU Division I basketball programs right there, 14-3. Yeah. But I'll be intrigued to see exactly how they play out the rest of their schedule, the regular season schedule, especially in conference. But we all know the only thing that truly matters is what happens in the conference tournament. And I don't want to reiterate this fact over and over again because, unfortunately, the way that the selection committee currently goes, they normally just take the automatic bid from that program. And as sweet as it is to win your regular season, and as sweet as it is to be dominant throughout the regular season, it all falls down to what you do in your conference tournament for the Division I programs, that is, because, at least the HBCUs in the Division II side are looked at a lot differently than they are on the Division I side of the ledger. But as of right now, Norfolk State not only has a huge lead, has the best record amongst Division I HBCUs, but right now they're currently tied with Morgan State in first place in the MEAC.
And I'm looking at and I'll do this quickly. I'm looking at Norfolk State schedule, man. Women, it's pretty damn impressive, man. I mean, they won at College of Charleston, at Appalachian State. They beat Marshall. They had a couple of ugly losses. They lost big at Old Dominion and at Alabama, but they turned around and won at UNC Wilmington and beat William and Marriott. So, and they beat them down. So, and that UNC Wilmington game was on the road. So, it's pretty impressive. I mean, they had a competitive loss at Penn State. They lost by 6 points, but still, wins at College of Charleston, win at Appalachian State. That's 2 road wins against slightly bigger programs, and that not William Marriott at home, but at UNC Wilmington. That's pretty damn good.
Yeah, when you're able to get wins over mid-major programs, as another mid-major, of course, it's impressive. Primarily out of conference, but seeing how competitive you are against, those mid to lower tier major conference programs is where you're going to be tested and see exactly how that works out against who will probably end up being either a number 1 or number 2 seed based upon what your seed is going to be in the NCAAs. Yeah. That is a great litmus test heading into that.
Yeah. So just looking at, I'm on Norfolk State now, so might as well look ahead. So I think they have just conference play the rest of the way, if I'm not mistaken. So it's going to be interesting to see if anyone in the MEAC could at least try to rise up to the occasion and upset them. But they're looking pretty damn dominant, dude. And That's pretty damn impressive. So
Oh,
props.
most definitely. Like you said, great start. But of course, they're going to keep their eyes out for Morgan State and for Coppin, the two schools coming out of Baltimore, to see exactly how well they do and how well they finish, not only within the regular season, but whether or not they're capable of winning the conference tournament.
And speaking of Norfolk State, let's just switch to the men's side. And they got Norfolk State has the monopoly, if you will, on the women's and the men's side. The men is 2-0 in the conference, or 2-0 in the conference, at 12-5 overall. The tie with Morgan State for the conference lead at 2-0. They're 8-8. So basically, same as the women's side. Norfolk State is the only squad that's above 500. So I'm just looking at the schedule right now. They have some. Let's look at their wins right quick. They won at William & Mary, which is great. They beat beloved A&T. But it was
in Vegas,
yeah, in Las Vegas, they won by 6. So those are the wins, most noble wins. But anyway, they lost big at Houston. Houston is like the top 5 teams in the country.
Exactly right.
Nothing to be ashamed of.
No, not at all.
And whatnot, and they won out. They also won at Monmouth. So basically, we have a similar situation. Norfolk Statesmen is very competitive as well. They don't have any really bad losses. They're very competitive, like I said, 12-5 record. They may get a favorable schedule if they win. If they win the regular season and the conference tournament. It's not like one of those years where they're barely over 500. So I guess the same thing here, man. It looks like Norfolk State is dominant on both sides, and this looks like it's going to be a Norfolk State party for men's and women's basketball in the MEAC.
It's a possibility, but help me out here, Scott. I thought I saw that in the MEAC there are currently 4 teams that are over 500 right now.
Okay, well, that's probably changed. So while I'm looking at this, I don't know when this is updated. The overall records, like Morgan State, Maryland, Eastern Shore, Central, all 3 of them are 8-8.
Yeah. 500 or better. I'm sorry. That's my
500
mistake.
or better. Yeah.
So 500 and better. Yeah. Morgan had a huge win over North Carolina Central last week. So you start to talk about that number 2, 3, and number 4 team in the MEAC and trying to set themselves up so they can potentially meet Norfolk in the finals. But all 4 of those programs are looking good right now. And my sleeper team coming out of the MEAC is Kenny Blakeney and those Howard Bison. I like them too.
Oh, okay.
They're 8-10. They've had some tough losses out of conference, but I wouldn't be surprised if they try to make a late season push this year.
Nice. So it should. I think it's going to be a bit more exciting on the men's side, just because to your point, Howard had a sleeper team that had some tough losses. Central's always competitive with the head coach. Excuse me. So he's always in there, and so it's going to be interesting to watch him down the stretch. I'll definitely pay attention to the men's side at least.
Because
it's going to be much more competitive than the women's side.
Oh yeah, and don't sleep on Coppin State either with your boy Juan Dixon, the head coach up there in Baltimore.
That's right.
And this kid Sessions. This kid Sessions out of Coppin, that dude has been balling this year. We'll talk a little bit more about him next week in terms of leaders in the respective conferences. But every time I turn around, I'm seeing that this kid Sessions is having big games. He actually, I forget what the out of conference win that the big out of conference win that they had earlier on this year. But yeah, he was most definitely a leader in that game.
Nice. We'll definitely get into that next week for sure, which was going to be exciting. Look forward to that. So let's just switch from our beloved MEAC to the other power conference as well, the HBCU Flags. That's the SWAC. So with the women's, ladies first. Jackson State looks like they're going to be crying again for at least on the women's side of basketball. And I really love their head coach too. Her name slips my mind, but they're undefeated conference play at 3-0, followed by Alabama State, Southern, Prairie View, Alabama A&M, and Grambling State, who are all 3-1. Bethune is 2-1 as well. no one's overall records are over 500, but still,
No.
it looks like it's gonna be one of those years where whoever wins the SWAC on the women's side at least probably not get but so favorable seeding in the NCAA tournament. But what are we to watch for this year in the women's side of the SWAC of SWAC basketball?
Oh, it's going to be, of course, that what's that the they're not doing conferences in the SWAC, are they?
Well, we're not. I'm sorry.
They're not doing not conferences, but divisions in the SWAC.
No. It's all one.
And so it's all one, right? Yeah. Look for those teams with Grambling, Prairie View, A&M, Alabama State, and Southern. Mm-hmm. To have some interesting battles throughout the season, because I think all of them are within a game of Jackson State right now.
That's right.
Matter of fact, I almost forgot about Alabama, A&M, and Bethune-Cookman. All of them are within a game of Jackson State, so it's going to be interesting to see whether or not they're going to be capable of keeping pace with the Tigers throughout the rest of the season, and then, of course, how they fare within the tournament. But yeah, as of right now, JSU, currently undefeated in the SWAC, has that early lead.
Yeah, I'm looking at their schedule right now. I mean, they lost. They're 6-7 overall for a reason. They got a murderous road for a schedule, out of conference schedule. I mean, they were at Carolina, and Colorado. They won at Texas Tech, and they beat Louisiana. There were two good out of conference wins, right? Right there against bigger programs.
Oh yeah, the Texas Tech and Louisiana wins. Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, so that's really good. So that bodes well for them if they continue to win out and dominate the SWAC regular season and win the conference tournament. So they'll probably get a better seeding than I originally thought, because at least the out of conference schedule was brutal.
Yeah,
I mean, they played at UCLA, at Oregon State, at Missouri, they hosted Texas. And they were at Washington State. They beat Southeast Louisiana at home, but still, I forget the ladies, the coach of women's team, but she's pretty damn good.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you to you like this though, Scott. This will be a little bit of tough love. Regardless of how they do record-wise within the conference, it's just going to be more so which 16 seed they're going to get.
Sure.
With everyone currently being under 500, and yes, Jackson State has faced some tough out of conference opponents. Those two wins might help. It'll be basically what the resumes of the other 16 seeds look like.
Right.
But yeah, the hope is to avoid the number one overall seed. Right. But we'll see exactly how that goes. But God bless whoever comes out of that conference tournament, and it's not Jackson State, and they win it, because they're going to end up facing a buzzsaw and whoever the number one overall seed is in the country.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Because one last thing about that. The reason why I'm tripping on Jackson State's women's right now is because remember how well they did against LSU in the tournament last year. That caused LSU's coach Kim Mulkey to give what many perceive as a backhanded compliment to Jackson State's head coach, something to the tune of, she's winning with the resources, lack of resources that they have, something like that. I forget the exact.
Yeah, it was Tamika Reed is her name.
So Tamika Reed, yeah. And saying something to the fact that she may or may not be there long because she's so good.
You know what though? Because it's weird. Whenever I hear someone outside of the HBCU ranks say something like that, I do cringe a little bit.
Yeah.
But when I hear someone within the ranks say that, I'm like, oh, okay, they're just basically giving them their props. So I have to lean more towards the latter than the former.
Sure.
I understand we've had that tough conversation about Deion Sanders and his move over to Colorado, and I promise you, we'll end up talking about that less and less as the year goes on. But as it pertains with anyone, right, on any level, and I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna quote him. It's either you elevate or you terminate, right?
Right.
And she's basically saying that if her coaching ends up being great where she currently is, chances are she's going to end up someplace else coaching Now, do I believe it's going to be another Power 5 program? Well, will it be a Power 5 program? I'm not necessarily sure. Maybe she can go on to be an assistant if that's what she desires to do. But if she wants to continue to lead teams, it'll probably more so be within the HBCU ranks, or within the another major. I'm not saying that she's not good enough. I just know how, based upon what we've seen in recent history, unfortunately, that our HBCU coaches don't necessarily get an opportunity elsewhere in major programs to be head coaches.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. Let's switch to the men's side right quick. Look at the top of the standings. You got Southern at 4-0.
Yeah.
Followed by Jackson State at 3-0, and Grambling State, who I think is the best team right now in the SWAC, is 3-1 in conference, but at 10-6 overall. So they have a better overall record. Jackson State is 3-0. A little misleading because they're 4-12 overall.
Yeah,
so
right.
It's pretty brutal, dude. So really, I think it looks like it may come down between Grambling State and Southern. So before we get into like the Grambling State's wins or whatever, who do you think is looking to be the better team right now coming out of the men's side of the SWAC?
Man, it could be a hot box.
Okay.
You have I know I'll go ahead and I'll get into the wins real quick though. As of right now, like you're saying, you did highlight both Grambling and Southern. They're the only two programs in the MEAC, not the MEAC, I'm sorry, in the SWAC that have their overall records that are over 37.5%.
Yeah.
But you talk about teams like Southern, who excuse me, who have wins over California and Loyola of Maryland. Jackson State, like you said, who are 4-12 but are currently 3-0 in the conference. They have a win over SMU. That's their lone out of conference win. Grambling, who's been like you said earlier, who's been relatively strong, have big out of conference wins over Colorado and Vanderbilt. That's most definitely a team to watch. Prairie View, they beat Washington State. Alcorn has a win over Wichita State. And Texas Southern, who is winless in the SWAC right now, has a win over Arizona State. And Texas Southern, who most definitely during the Mike Davis years were extremely strong in the conference. It had some good showings in the NCAA tournament. I forget who the current head coach at Texas Southern is now, but it'll be really intriguing to see whether or not Texas Southern can turn it on, relatively similar to what they did last year, later on in the during conference play, to see if they're going to be able to better their seed for their conference tournament and see exactly how they play within tournament play. But as of right now, to your point, Grambling has looked the best on paper, based upon what they've done so far at this point during the regular season.
I mean, they beat down Colorado at home, but they won at Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
So that's pretty impressive. It's they won at University of Texas at San Antonio. So I mean, that's good out of conference win, especially talk about Power 5, Colorado and Vanderbilt. But I mean, the point is you can't sleep with these boys, and if they have a good showing in conference and we're the conference tournament, they may get a decent seed, like in the NCAA. So, so it's something. They're definitely a team to keep an eye on, man. Them and Southern right now, I think. So it's gonna be pretty fun watching those two go at it.
But to your point, real quick about the SWAC and their out of conference play, the biggest thing for them this past season, or this current season, has most definitely been that Pac-12 SWAC challenge that they had earlier this year. Like I just rattled off for you, with Southern having that win over Cal, Jackson State. Well, I'm sorry, Grambling over Colorado, Prairie View A&M over Washington State, and Texas Southern over Arizona State. Big wins within that SWAC versus Pac-12 challenge that depending upon how the committee sees the Pac-12 and how well they end up playing would potentially could be beneficial to the SWAC champion if it's one of those four programs.
Well said. Let's move along to the CIAA, shall we? The conference of my youth, because I grew up literally right around the corner down the street from Winston State. Just on the women, Lincoln University is really doing it. Like Lincoln University, Fayetteville State, Elizabeth City State, Bowie State, and Winston State doing well conference like Fayetteville State and Lincoln leading their respective northern and southern divisions. I should say southern and northern divisions at 5-1 record, as well as Elizabeth City State, and Bowie. Both are 4-2 in the northern division behind Lincoln. Winston State 4-2 behind Fayetteville State. So, and they have decent overall conference records. I mean, overall records like Lincoln at 10-5, Elizabeth City at 10-4, Bowie State at 8-7, Fayetteville State at 9-5, and Winston State at 8-6, and even Kaplan at 9-5 overall. So this is pretty competitive, man. This is which like more competitive teams means more fun. So this I mean, it looks like the women's side is gonna be fun in the CIAA this year.
Yeah, you know, like you said, you had the two teams in Lincoln and Elizabeth City State that both have over 10 wins. Like you said before as well, you have those 5 teams in Elizabeth City State, Bowie State, Winston-Salem State, Fayetteville State, and Lincoln that are all going to be competitive in their 2 respective conferences. I'm sorry, not conferences, but divisions.
Right.
And I'm looking at somewhere between 2 to 3 teams making it from this conference to the Division II tournament based upon how they do in the upcoming tournament.
Wow.
In February in Baltimore.
Yeah, because I mean they're very competitive. I mean, looking at the conference records and the overall records especially.
Yeah.
They look pretty damn good. And speaking of pretty damn good, let's go to the men's side.
Ooh.
Dude, Virginia State, Virginia Union, monsters in their northern division. Both at 12-4 overall. I know Virginia Union is 2-2 in the conference right now, but Virginia State's unbeaten in conference play. And then you go to the Southern Division. Kaplan is 12-2, bro.
Yeah.
Winston State is 11-4. You know, they're both of them percentage-wise are not leading the Southern Division. That would be Livingstone at 3-1 conference and 7-6 overall. But Kaplan's 4-2. I think them and Winston State, and don't sleep on Fayetteville State. They're 4-2 in the Southern Division, the conference, and 9-9 overall. But I think, while I think the Southern Division is going to be very competitive, I mean, between Kaplan, Fayetteville State, and Winston State, man, oh man, that Northern Division, those 2 Virginia schools, and Shaw's not too bad either, 97 overall, but those 2 Virginia schools, man.
Yeah.
Man, they're beasts.
Nasty. And, you know, to reiterate what you said, 4 teams in the CIAA have 10 or more wins. As of right now, like you said, West Virginia State and Claflin, West Virginia State and Shaw,
Virginia
right?
State, Virginia State,
Well, not West Virginia State. I'm sorry, Virginia State and Winston-Salem State are the 2 division leaders, right?
Yeah, well, basically, Winston State's 3-3 right now. Behind Livingstone is 3-1, but Kaplan, Fayetteville State are 4-2.
That's right. Livingstone is the division leader in the East, right? And Claflin is the division leader in the West.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, North South. I'm sorry, that's on me. I'm so busy thinking. I'm already ahead in the SIAC already.
There you go.
Yeah, like I said, God, we just said it. Claflin in the South and God, who's that? Fayetteville State leading the North. But those are the 4 programs that have over 10 wins.
Yeah.
But Virginia State, like you said, is the lone undefeated team in the CIAA. And you did bring up something that's most definitely has precedence for Saturday. Excuse me, Scott. For this upcoming Saturday. Down at VSU, you got Virginia State and Virginia Union facing off, so it's going to be the first meeting for them this year. I know they're going to be rocking in Ettrick to see exactly. I'm actually going to be down there for that game, so this will be my first time checking out those programs live and in color. So it's going to be. I know they're going to be rocking down there, man, to see exactly what their atmosphere is going to be like. to see who's going to end up having first place by the end of the weekend.
Nice. And we're going to transition to the last of the big four HBCU conferences, the SIAC or SIAC, depending on where you're from. Going to the women's side, it looks like in the East, you have Savannah State, Shannon Sharp's alma mater, leading the division, the East Division at 7-2 in conference, with 11-3 overall. So they're pretty damn good. Then in the South, how about Tuskegee, man? 10-0.
Yeah.
10-0 in conference play, 13-3 overall.
13-3 overall.
Yeah, bro. Followed by, check this out, Lane College at 6-2 in conference, 10-3 overall. Miles College at 6-3 in conference and 9-4 overall. And even Central State and Kentucky State, they're both over 500 in conference play, but they're 77 overall, both of them. They're pretty competitive. So, man, I mean, it looks like all the competition is in the West.
Yeah, they're going to have a murderer's row getting through that division to see who ends up being the number one seed. Excuse me, in that division. But yeah, like you said, Tuskegee, most definitely keep an eye out for them, and also keep an eye out, like you said, as well for Savannah State to see how they end up doing in the tournament. It'll be wonderful to see if those two teams are the ones that end up facing off against one another in the finals. But the way that the bracket is set up,
right,
being that you have it, and same thing for the CIAA, when you have the conferences not conferences, but the divisions interwoven based upon what their seeding are in one another. It's a possibility we may end up getting two teams like we've done before in the past from the same division in the title game.
Yeah,
so again, regular season's cool,
right?
But it's all going to come. Again, Division II is a lot more. We will end up seeing more representatives from HBCUs in the Division II tournament. So we'll probably end up seeing maybe three to four, about three teams from the SIAC too to make it to the women's tournament. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks pretty competitive. Speaking of competitive, let's check out the men's side quickly. Savannah State also doing it like on the men's side in their division, in the East Division, at 7-2 in conference, 9-4 overall, followed by Fort Valley State at 6-3 in conference, 8-7 overall, the Fighting Greg Lloyds. But then you go down here to the West, just like in women's.
The West Division is crushed.
It's brutal. It's brutal. I mean,
tough.
Miles and Tuskegee are 8-2 in conference play. They're 12-3 and 13-4 overall.
Yeah.
That is tough, man. And then Kentucky State is 7-2 in conference, 8-3 overall, followed by I'm gonna butcher their name, Lemoyne Owen.
Yeah.
5-3 in conference, 10-5 overall. Good goobly goo.
Yeah. That division is tough, like you said. Again, it would be interesting to see how the regular season plays and to see how the seeding falls for the tournament. But as much as we've talked about the SIAC on the men's side and how well those teams have been playing, Scott, there's only two teams from HBCUs that are ranked nationally for Division II.
Really?
Yeah, Claflin at number 21.
Okay. And
a program that we haven't talked about all night, West Virginia State, out of the WVIAA, who I kind of subliminally touched on earlier when I said Virginia State. Yeah, West Virginia State, that is currently, what are they, 13th? Oh, sorry, they're 17th in the nation.
Okay, wow.
With a record of 13-1. So, that's another program who doesn't necessarily get a lot of focus put upon them because they're not in the HBCU conference.
Right.
But they're out there balling right now. And I'm going to be intrigued to see exactly what type of run that they'll end up making if they make it to the tournament.